There is a force in quietude that most people just can't grasp because it never screams for attention. It doesn't pursue validation, nor does it demand to be noticed, yet its presence is undeniable to everyone in the room. Our culture idolizes volume, quick comebacks, brash certainty, and perpetual motion. But genuine wisdom, especially within a woman, is frequently calm, not from a place of fear, but from a state of being centered, rooted, complete. A truly intelligent woman isn't necessarily the person with the most credentials or the most forceful opinion. You are the woman who steps away from drama, feeling no need to win the last word. You are the woman who never mistakes being the center of attention for being genuinely respected. You are the one who simply gets it. The way you care for yourself sets the standard for every connection you make. So this isn't a guide on how to win people over. It's not about achieving a flawless persona. It's about cultivating deep awareness. Because the second a woman becomes aware of her own patterns, how she holds herself, processes thoughts, and chooses her reactions, she taps into a silent power that recalibrates the energy of any space she occupies. Let's journey into that awareness together. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to Self-Mastery, where we deliver enduring insights to help you guard your energy, upgrade your perspective, and live with intention. Subscribe and activate notifications so you never miss a transmission for your soul, a strengthening for your spirit that could alter the course of your life. Let's start. There's a vast distinction between keeping your mouth shut and cultivating inner stillness. Countless people appear quiet externally, yet their internal world is a non-stop storm of thoughts, negotiating for validation, shrinking from critique, and desperately seeking praise. But the highly intelligent woman masters a lesson few ever learn. Inner quiet isn't about eliminating noise. It's about dissolving internal conflict. You don't hide from people to shield your tranquility. You simply refuse to let everything demand a piece of your focus. Your mind becomes a protected garden, not available for every conversation, not vulnerable to every shift in the emotional climate. This isn't born from ego, it's the harvest of clear-sightedness, the kind of clarity that comes from living through the consequences of sacrificing your inner peace to fix external chaos. You have learned, possibly through painful experience, that endlessly debating to assert your value, tirelessly justifying your limits, and habitually responding to the emotions of others doesn't create harmony. It just drains your life force. In neuroscience, there's the concept of cognitive overhead. This measures how much data your brain juggles at one time. Excessive stimulus, from toxic chatter, relational drama, or just plain overthinking, unleashes stress hormones like cortisol. With time, this constant pressure wears down your prefrontal cortex, the hub for good judgment, self-regulation, and compassion. But when a woman learns to cultivate her inner quiet, she defends that personal space. You give your mind and body the room to self-regulate. And this single choice becomes the bedrock of your emotional intelligence. Not just as a concept, but in how you appear in every one of your relationships. Picture a woman who is perpetually reacting. Her partner says one thoughtless thing, and she lashes out instantly. Her manager ignores her contribution, and she's seething silently. Her friend forgets to reach out, and she internalizes it as a personal slight. Her entire existence feels like an emotional seesaw, draining, unmoored, and volatile. Her nervous system is always on high alert. Now picture a different woman. Her partner's tone gets sharp. She stops, inhales, and in that moment, she hears more than just his words. She perceives his hurt. You don't escalate his turmoil. You anchor yourself in your own calm, and from that stability, you select a response that is measured, not reflexive. This is the strength of inner quiet. It's not passivity, it's mastery, and it completely redefines how the world engages with you. In ancient traditions, a saying goes, "The sage drinks the tea but feels the steam." This implies that you don't just exist, you listen to the deeper currents of life. You register energy, You see when a person's smile is out of sync with their eyes. You detect the unstated messages in a discussion. Because your mind isn't cluttered with static, your perception is crystal clear. A woman like this becomes an enigma to most. Why? You aren't predictable. You don't show up for every fight. You don't buy a ticket to every drama. You decline to participate in every pointless debate. And in a culture hooked on reaction, your self-control is captivating. People sense a unique quality in your presence, a solidness, a quiet assurance. Yet this quietness isn't purely philosophical, it's intensely practical. In the landscape of our relationships, it's what separates a conflict that spirals out of control from a connection that goes deeper. There is a legend of an old gardener in a village known for helping partners find common ground. Couples would visit her expecting a lecture, but she would often sit with them quietly for several minutes, eyes down, just being present. When they asked about her method, she would reply, "I wait for the soil to speak its truth, not the weeds of anger, not the rocks of fear, just the truth." This is the kind of woman who refuses to speak from her own emotional wounds. You wait until your wisdom resurfaces, and then, only then, you share your words. Modern science backs this up. Research reveals that giving your brain just 90 seconds of quiet after an emotional trigger allows the amygdala, your emotional control center, to settle. This lets your rational brain come back online. This means if you can just wait a short moment before you respond, your odds of delivering a thoughtful reply instead of a regretful one skyrocket. Truly intelligent women grasp this, so they make a habit of quietude, not just during meditation, but in the eye of the storm. When attacked, you don't race to your own defense. When misunderstood, you don't scramble to clarify. When overlooked, you don't become smaller. You stay completely still inside, and from that internal stillness, your next move becomes obvious. But this silence doesn't mean you feel nothing. Quite the opposite, you feel it all, but nothing has control over you. This leads to the second practice, knowing when to be tender and when to be firm. Tenderness is so often misinterpreted as fragility, and firmness is so often mistaken for cruelty. But a truly intelligent woman has moved past these simplified notions. You've been overly tender and been trampled. You've been excessively hard and blocked love from coming near. And now, through self-reflection and keen awareness, you hold both tenderness and resolve in a beautiful equilibrium. Emotional self-discipline is the hidden art you refine every day, not for others' benefit, but out of reverence for your own vital energy. You've learned that reacting from anger feels potent for a second, but leaves you depleted. You know that consistently being the one who pardons too soon, yields too much, or stays silent just to keep the peace ultimately chips away at your self-respect. So you master a new flow. When someone disregards your personal line, you don't raise your voice. You simply withdraw their access to your time and presence. When a friend reaches out only when they have a need, you don't lecture them. You just become unavailable for every call. When existence feels like too much, you don't break down. You decelerate, tune into your body, and recalibrate your rhythm. This is your core of steel, silent, steady, resolved, unbreakable. Yet within that steel, tenderness remains. The tenderness to offer grace without being a fool. The tenderness to shed tears without losing your stability. The tenderness to love with all your heart without dissolving your sense of self. Psychologists call this emotional agility, the capacity to move through different feeling states without getting trapped. It isn't the lack of feeling, but the possession of choice in your connections. This quality builds profound trust. Men, in particular, feel a deep emotional safety with a woman who can feel intensely without being consumed by her feelings. A woman who can state her needs with absolute clarity, not with accusations or guilt trips. A woman who can carry herself with dignity when life doesn't go her way. This isn't an act, it's maturity. And it attracts authentic intimacy. Think of the story of a woman whose partner grew emotionally unavailable. For a long time, She attempted every tactic, deep talks, emotional appeals, even stonewalling. Nothing worked. Then one evening, instead of following the old script, she calmly stated, "I adore you, but I'm no longer willing to carry the emotional weight of this connection by myself. My door is open if you choose to rebuild with me, but I am done pleading for your attention." For the first time, he really saw her. Not because she shouted, but because she was definite. Her words weren't empty threats. They were grounded boundaries, and he felt the unyielding resolve beneath her gentle tone. This is the kind of woman people hold in high regard. Even when they don't share her views, they sense she is true to her word. Your presence is not erratic. Your affection is not needy. Your feelings are not a wildfire. You offer peace, and people will either rise to your level or quietly exit. Neurologically, this emotional self-mastery reinforces the prefrontal cortex, creating a positive feedback loop of ever-increasing resilience. When a woman manages her emotions skillfully, she generates more security in her relationships. And when her connections feel secure, her brain becomes more plastic and adaptable. It's a powerful cycle of self-command, but it all begins with one core habit: pausing, taking a deep breath before you talk, and asking yourself, is this response in line with the woman I am committed to being? It's about choosing your tone, your timing, and the honesty of your communication. And even when you falter, as all of us do, you don't berate yourself. You reflect, you recalibrate, you evolve. That is emotional intelligence lived out. A woman who knows when to be gentle and when to be firm is not easy to control. You can't be manipulated by guilt into extending yourself or provoked into speaking words you'll regret. You operate with intention, and this brings an unseen but palpable power to your relationships. You don't operate through power plays or submission. You exist in equilibrium, and this harmony of silence and insight, of gentleness and fortitude, becomes the cornerstone of your influence, your love, and your legacy. There is a subtle skill that highly intelligent women possess, one that is easily missed in a society that values the volume of one's voice. That skill is observation. You have conditioned yourself to see things, to hear beneath the words, to stay rooted in awareness while the world pressures you to react. This habit isn't born of anxiety but of discipline. It's a quiet kind of strength, opting to comprehend before needing to be comprehended. A deeply intelligent woman watches far more than she talks, not because she is empty of thoughts, but because you know most people are just waiting for their turn to speak, not actually listening, and you have zero interest in spending your energy on superficial discussions or skin-deep bonds. There's a tale of a woman who joined a new company. While her colleagues hurried to make their mark, claim their competence, and stake out their space, she held back for the first few weeks. You watched. You listened. You observed the way people communicated, when the boss was in the room and when he was not. You took note of who claimed the praise, who accepted blame, and who went silent during disputes. Within a month, you had developed a mental blueprint, not just of job descriptions, but of character, energy flows, motivations, and dependability. This practice of quiet observation gave you the ability to navigate with wisdom instead of fear. When you finally did speak up, your words had substance, not because they were the loudest, but because your perspective was based on genuine presence. And presence is a rare commodity. When a woman truly perceives people, not with criticism, but with clarity, you command a type of respect that can never be demanded. Neuroscience confirms this. The practice of focused observation engages the mirror neuron system, a brain circuit that helps us empathize and instinctively grasp the emotional states of others. When a woman trains herself to notice not just language, but tone of voice, body language, and energy shifts, you are honing your intuition. This gut feeling, what some call a woman's sixth sense, isn't supernatural. It's the product of paying close attention mixed with emotional understanding. So many women have recounted stories of looking back and seeing that they spotted the red flags but dismissed them. The partner who couldn't hold their gaze while apologizing. The friend whose compliments were always tinged with a competitive edge. The coworker who was charming to your face but cold behind your back. All the signals were present, but they were lost in the noise of being busy, distracted, and wanting to see the best in people. But the truly intelligent woman doesn't leap to judgment, nor does she rush to argue her point. You stop, you consider, you notice how individuals act when they are upset, when they are joyful, when they feel in control, and when they feel vulnerable. You listen with your entire being because you understand that people expose their true selves not just in what they declare, but in how they say it, and, most revealingly, in what they decide to leave unspoken. In your relationships, this practice becomes a tool for both safety and connection. A woman who observes is not easily tricked by charisma. You see past the carefully constructed facade. You spot the inconsistencies between what someone says and what they do. You watch how a person treats the service staff, talks about their exes, deals with failure, or accepts correction. And from these tiny clues, you comprehend their fundamental character. But you also use this observation to foster love. You notice when your partner is withdrawn not because he is angry, but because he is carrying a heavy load. You feel when the mood has shifted, not because he announced it, but because his energetic signature is different. And this allows you to provide support in ways that build a sanctuary of safety. Because you are not making assumptions, you are paying deep attention. A wise woman once said, "I don't need to ask for answers. I just watch them reveal themselves." This calm awareness gives your presence a magnetic quality. You listen in a way that makes people feel truly seen. You pick up on the little details, the change in someone's voice when they talk about a passion, the way their shoulders relax when they finally feel secure, the spark in their eyes when they reminisce about their youth. And because you see people so clearly, people feel safe to be real with you. But your observation isn't just directed outward. You apply it to your own inner world with the same focus. You watch your own tone of voice when you're fatigued. You observe your own thought loops when you're feeling insecure. You become an apprentice of your own psyche. And this is where observation becomes personal evolution. When you can observe yourself without cruel self-judgment, you gain the power to change with grace. You notice when you're slipping into old patterns, trying to please everyone, over justifying your actions, or retreating emotionally. And because you can see these tendencies so clearly, you are no longer a hostage to them. This self-awareness provides emotional liberty. It's the shift from declaring, "That's just my personality," to knowing, "That was the old me." From this grounded foundation of observation, another profound practice naturally arises: creation. A truly intelligent woman isn't satisfied to merely consume. Whether it's information, popular trends, external opinions, or validation, you are a creator. You create mental space for yourself. You create moments for your own renewal. You create beauty in your home, harmony in your relationships, and a deliberate rhythm to your days. This act of creation isn't always for an audience. It might not appear in a gallery or a professional bio, but it is deeply real. You put your thoughts on paper in a journal. You prepare food for yourself with love. You design your morning with conscious intent. You mold your personal space with purpose. And in doing so, you send yourself a daily reminder: I am the director of my own story, not just a supporting character waiting for my cue. There is a huge difference between being in motion and being in movement. The first is driven by automatic habits, the second by focused clarity. A woman who is endlessly scrolling, reacting, hurrying, checking, she is in motion. But a woman who stops to create, who reads to expand, writes to understand, builds to express, that woman is in movement, deliberate, guided, and vibrantly alive. This pivot from consumption to creation transforms everything, especially in relationships. When a woman is constantly consuming advice, approval, and viewpoints, she loses touch with her own inner compass. You start to rely on others to define what is good, how you ought to feel, and who you're supposed to be. But when you create, you take that power back. Your journal becomes your most trusted advisor. Your routines become your safe haven. Your own quiet becomes your greatest mentor. In romantic partnerships, this habit prevents you from becoming emotionally codependent. You don't need your partner to be the source of your purpose or your emotional keel. You arrive at the relationship already a complete person. You create your own happiness. You don't wait for it to be given to you. You initiate nurturing. You don't demand it. And this makes your love feel like a gift, not a desperate plea. Consider the story of a woman recovering from a painful split. Her whole identity had become enmeshed with the relationship. When it ended, she was adrift. For months, she just consumed self-improvement books, online seminars, counseling sessions. All of it helped a bit, but something crucial was missing. Then, one day, she rediscovered her old guitar. She hadn't played it for years. As she started to create music again, a fundamental shift occurred. The pain didn't vanish, but it was repurposed. Her music gave her an outlet, a reflection, and a path back to her own soul. She later reflected, "It wasn't the guitar that fixed me. It was being reminded that I still had a gift to offer the world that went beyond my heart touch." This is the deep wisdom of creation. It is not about making perfect art. It is about the discipline of being present. And in that state of presence, a woman finds who she truly is. Science reinforces this idea. Taking part in creative pursuits activates the brain's default mode network, which facilitates self-examination, emotional regulation, and even creative problem solving. When a woman creates, you are not avoiding your life, you are integrating its parts. This practice also fundamentally alters your relationship with time. You no longer feel as though life is just happening to you. You become an active creator, not just a reactor. You decide how your day begins and ends, how you recharge, and how you reconnect. You don't just mindlessly eat, you create nourishment. You don't just passively consume media, you create thoughtful boundaries around it. You don't just absorb what happens in a relationship, you contribute, you pour life into it. And as you do this, something amazing takes place. Your very energy becomes attractive. People can sense when a woman is living from a place of intention. Your presence has a weight and depth to it. You don't beg for attention. You don't try to outshine others, you just are. And that authenticity is more captivating than any role you could play. But this path of creation also demands self-discipline. It's far easier to scroll than to write, much simpler to react than to build, and more tempting to binge than to contemplate. And so, the highly intelligent woman doesn't sit around waiting for inspiration to strike. You build a rhythm, a designated space in your life where creating is simply what you do. Whether it's 10 minutes every morning, a quiet walk at dusk, or a full day disconnected from the digital world, you honor that commitment. And in that discipline, you rediscover yourself over and over, not in the clamor of the world, but in the quiet act of choosing what you contribute. Observation shows you reality as it is. Creation reminds you of what is possible. And these two habits together form the foundation of a life lived with meaning, not for show. There is a quiet grace to a woman who has no need to justify her personal boundaries. You do not broadcast them with hostility. You do not plead for others to honor them. You refuse to break yourself down just to keep someone else comfortable. Your limit isn't a barricade she puts up, it's more like a river's current. Those who move with your natural flow remain. Those who fight it are simply carried away. A truly intelligent woman knows that boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They are about keeping your own energy pure and aligned. You have discovered through real life that pouring too much of yourself into people who offer too little back only leads to exhaustion, bitterness, and a total disconnect from your own core. And so your boundaries become your sacred ground, protected not by aggression, but by quiet consistency. When someone consistently proves they don't respect your time, you don't have a tantrum. You simply become less reachable. When someone crosses a line, however subtly, with disrespect or mind games, you don't argue for your own value. You withdraw with grace, with tranquility, with a sense of finality. And in that dignified withdrawal, you deliver a potent message, not with your voice, but with your actions. I will always choose me. The world frequently misunderstands women who live this way. You get labeled as cold, unapproachable, or arrogant. But people are missing the deep wisdom that informs your silence. You have already shed tears in private. You have already bent yourself out of shape for others. You have already explained your hurt to those who refused to listen. And that trial by fire did not turn you to stone, it refined you into clarity. And clarity never has to shout. In the language of psychology, enmeshment describes a situation where personal boundaries dissolve in relationships, and one person's identity gets so mixed up with another's that their very sense of self is lost. Deeply intelligent women have often survived these kinds of relationships. You have loved so much that you disappeared, and when that love was not met with respect, you were left depleted. But instead of becoming jaded, you got wiser. Not more aggressive, but more certain. And from that certainty, you began to build a new life where your boundaries were no longer impulsive reactions, but conscious reflections of your own self-worth. Think of the woman who used to say yes to everything. Yes to every favor. Yes to working longer hours. Yes to forgiving before any real healing happened. You believed that love was synonymous with self-denial, and that being constantly accessible made you valuable. But on the inside, you were silently crumbling. No one saw it because you never let it show, until one day you simply had nothing left to give. You hit a point of total burnout, not just of the body, but of the spirit. It was in the stillness that followed, when exhaustion had scoured you clean, that you had a sacred insight. Nobody was going to hand you the life you deserved until you decided to claim it. And claiming it required setting limits. You started small, turning off your phone by 9 p.m., not making excuses, just doing it, declining invitations that didn't feel right, calling off plans when your system was screaming for rest, refusing to engage with passive aggression, even when it was wrapped in a compliment. And bit by bit, the world around you started to shift. Some people faded away, others drew in closer, finally treating you with the same respect you had started to grant yourself. A woman who doesn't justify her limits isn't cruel. You are simply no longer open for business with dynamics that degrade her. You understand that a partner who is truly right for you will never ask you to shrink, to overextend yourself, or to constantly justify your existence just to be heard. He will understand your quiet moments. He will honor your personal rhythm. He will value your inner peace. In relationship dynamics, this becomes a natural filtration process. People who are used to pushing limits through guilt trips, emotional blackmail, or subtle pressure tactics will find that there is no leverage. You do not participate in games of emotional tug-of-war. You release your grip even when it's painful, because for you, no relationship is worth the cost of betraying yourself. There's a powerful quote that says, "Your boundary is not a negotiation. If they don't like it, they are welcome to leave." The highly intelligent woman embodies this philosophy not as a defensive posture, but as a way of life. You have zero to prove. Your presence is the response. Your absence is the response. Your tranquility is the response. But these limits are not just about other people. They are also about yourself. You set boundaries with your own inclinations to get lost in overthinking, to engage in harsh self-talk, or to keep picking at wounds that are trying to heal. You catch yourself when your thoughts start spiraling back to old narratives, stories where you were not good enough, not loved enough, not picked. And you gently tell yourself, no, we're not going back there today. This internal boundary is the ultimate act of self-leadership. You are no longer tossed about by every thought or emotion. You value your own energy far too much to squander it on bitterness or fantasies of revenge. Your attention becomes your most precious resource, and you invest it only in what resonates with your deepest truth. One woman shared how she used to allow people to rationalize their poor treatment of her. He had a bad day. She's just overwhelmed. They meant well. But she eventually realized that continually making excuses for others' lack of consistency was eroding her own soul. She wasn't just permitting them to treat her badly, she was instructing them that it was okay. So she changed her approach. Now, when someone offers an apology but their behavior never changes, you step away. When someone makes big promises but fails to deliver, you adjust your own expectations, not with bitterness, but with clarity, because you have learned that love without respect is a counterfeit, and attention without consistency is not real commitment. In romantic connections, this type of woman is both captivating and grounding. Captivating because you can't be easily figured out or controlled. Grounding because your energy is a source of clarity. Your partner can feel the security of your high standards. He understands that your love is deep, but it comes with mutual responsibility. You will not pursue, you will not persuade, you will not water down your essence just to hold on to someone's interest. This isn't a show of power through control, it is power through self-ownership. You know your own identity, you know what you stand for, and you know that anyone who tries to breach your limits under the guise of love isn't really offering love at all. An Eastern teaching says that a woman in harmony with herself is like water, soft enough to yield, but powerful enough to wear away stone. You do not fight against life, you flow with it. And a key part of that flow is recognizing when to say no, when to withdraw, and when to defend the space you need to thrive. That defense is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just turning off the news. Sometimes it's refusing to get pulled into family feuds. Sometimes it's declining to offer an emotional reaction when someone is clearly baiting you. And sometimes it's just choosing silence over arguing with someone who is determined to misunderstand you. There is profound peace in not feeling the need to explain everything, in trusting that what is meant for you will find a way to stay, and what isn't will simply fall away. Boundaries aren't established overnight. They are carved out over years of life experience, moments of heartbreak, and a quiet vow to never betray yourself again. A woman who has known betrayal, disappointment, and deep confusion eventually comes to this sacred conviction. I know exactly how it feels to be treated with disrespect, and I will never permit it again. Not from others, and especially not from myself. And with that, your life simplifies, not because all conflict vanishes, but because your inner confusion dissolves. Your yes is infused with presence. Your no is filled with peace, and you feel zero obligation to defend either one. A woman who moves this way fundamentally changes the air around her. People start acting with more intention in your presence, more reverence, not from intimidation, but from admiration. They can feel that this isn't someone you can toy with, someone you can offer half-truths to, or someone you can guilt, trip, gaslight, or slowly erode. This woman has finally come home to herself, and in doing so, you show everyone else how to engage with her, not through speeches, but through her very being. If someone dares to ask why you don't tolerate something, you don't give a lecture. You might just offer a small smile and turn away, because your boundary isn't a topic for debate. It's a statement of your worth, and it needs no one's approval. There is a deep magnetism to a woman who carries herself with dignity, not just in her words or her posture, but in her unseen daily rituals. Not the major achievements the world celebrates, but the small, consistent actions you take when nobody else is around. These little ceremonies, so often overlooked, are the very framework of your self-respect. They are the tangible evidence of how you value yourself, not as a theory, but as a daily practice. A highly intelligent woman grasps that confidence is not a random occurrence. It is an outcome. an outcome of how you talk to yourself, how you nourish your body, how you rest, move, dress, listen, and return to your own core. These may seem like mundane details, but they sculpt your very identity. They are the rich soil from which your relationships, your choices, and your inner tranquility can blossom. It starts the instant you open your eyes. A woman living in alignment does not grab for her phone as the first act of the day. You reach for a moment of quiet, for clarity, for connection to self. You know that the first ideas you let into your mind will set the emotional tone for the next 12 hours. And so you cultivate a morning practice that reconnects you to who you are before the world rushes in to define you. It might be just a few conscious breaths, a hot cup of tea, a scribbled line in a journal, a few quiet minutes looking out a window, not as a chore, but as an act of honoring yourself enough to start your day with mindfulness. There is a tale of a woman who was perpetually depleted, not just from her job, but from the emotional needs of everyone around her: kids, colleagues, and a partner who consistently took more than he offered. She was starting to lose herself. Her moods were unstable, her body was a knot of tension. Then a simple piece of advice was offered. For 10 minutes every morning, do something that is only for you, something that anchors you. She was skeptical at first. What can 10 minutes really do, she wondered. But she gave it a try. Just 10 minutes of silence with her journal. No demands, no devices, no noise. Within 3 weeks, her whole world had shifted. Not because her life magically got simpler, but because she became stronger. You noticed you were less quick to react. You made choices with more clarity. You felt more centered in your daily conversations. That one small ritual, 10 minutes a day, had become your private sanctuary. What this shows is profound self-respect is built layer by layer. You don't get it from a single grand act of bravery. You construct it through daily ceremonies that quietly affirm your own value, especially during times when no one else seems to notice it. A woman who practices this stops searching for affirmation in unhealthy dynamics. You don't need a man's non-stop compliments to feel attractive, because you have already invested the time to treat your body with tenderness. You don't depend on a boss's praise to feel capable, because you already witnessed yourself keeping your own promises. Even if it was just staying hydrated, finishing a workout, or writing a single true sentence, your small victories compound. They build up. They become your quiet foundation of strength. And this foundation shows up in all your connections. A woman who respects herself becomes more discerning, not out of pride, but out of profound self-awareness. You don't participate in vapid small talk. You don't let flaky people monopolize your energy. You don't remain in situations where you must repeatedly justify your need for basic care. You are not abrasive about it. You simply understand that you don't have to trade your rituals, your personal rhythm, or your inner peace just to feel loved. The love you want must be equal to the love you are already providing for yourself. Psychology confirms that rituals create a sense of safety in the brain. The human nervous system is wired for predictability. When a woman builds consistent rituals, a morning walk, journaling, breathing exercises, intentional cooking, you are sending a message to your brain. You are secure, you are anchored, you are looked after. This feeling of internal security directly impacts how you navigate external chaos. Consider a woman in a volatile relationship. One day he's loving, the next he's cold. Her heart is in a constant state of confusion, starting to doubt her own value. But because you have anchored yourself in your daily rituals, you don't completely unravel. You may feel the sting of pain, yes, but you know the way back home to yourself. You have taught your nervous system to recognize home, not as a person, but as the feeling within your own body and breath. This is not a philosophy, it's a learned reflex. A woman who nurtures herself daily is building emotional resilience. Your rituals are a constant reminder, no matter what chaos unfolds out there, in here, I have my back. And that single reminder is what prevents you from spiraling when the outside world lets you down. There's a woman who created a habit of lighting a single candle every night before sleeping. It seems so minor, but for her, it became a sacred symbol that even on the most frantic days, she could come back to a source of light. That flame was her meditation, her prayer, and her promise to herself. On evenings when her heart was broken, she lit the candle. On evenings she felt joyful, she lit it. On evenings she felt utterly numb, she still lit the candle. That unwavering consistency became a force for healing, a reminder that even when her external world felt like a hurricane, she was still present for herself. And that is the core of daily rituals. They aren't meant to fix you. They are designed to remind you of your own dignity, your fortitude, your elegance, your sacred worth. In relationships, this has enormous effects. A woman grounded in ritual isn't constantly chasing emotional fireworks. You don't need continuous drama to feel passionate. Your inner landscape is already vibrant. You introduce stability into relationships, not turbulence. You listen with more depth, speak with more consideration, and respond with more wisdom because you are not operating from a place of emotional neediness. You are full, and that fullness is palpable. You become magnetic, not for what you proclaim, but for the profound peace you embody. A partner may not consciously know why he feels so safe with you. He just does. Because your energy is not all over the place. Your focus isn't desperate. Your presence isn't a demand. You are simply there, complete, centered, and fully present. This also gives you the strength to leave when you must. Not with a fiery exit, but with reverence for yourself. You don't have to slam the door. You simply close it softly, with no need for your reasons to be validated, because your rituals have shown you that being alone isn't a sentence. It is a sacred return. You know how to be by yourself without ever being lonely. Because in your rituals, you have become your own best friend. One of the most powerful decisions a woman can make is to start treating herself precisely as she hopes others will treat her. Speak to yourself with compassion. Nourish yourself with love. Adorn yourself with grace. Allow yourself to rest without guilt. Move your body with respect. When you do this consistently, the external world starts to reflect it back to you. There's an old truth. You show others how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. This isn't just an idea. It's a fundamental pattern of human interaction. When a woman habitually sacrifices her own needs to make others happy, people subconsciously learn that her needs are optional. Not because they are bad people, but because she set that example. But when she consistently prioritizes her own space, energy, and rhythm, others get the message. This is a woman who must be met with intention or not at all. In the art of self-mastery, rituals become something more than just habits. They are your spiritual discipline, a way of declaring every single day, I am worthy, I am whole, I am in charge of my own energy. And this responsibility is not a weight to bear, it is a liberation. Because once a woman claims it, you stop looking for someone else to fill your cup. You fill it yourself every day, mindfully and with joy. In some spiritual philosophies, there's a belief that how you do one small thing is how you do everything. The way you make your bed, pour your coffee, or take a walk are all mirrors of your internal state. A woman who tears through her day full of stress may not realize the damage it does to her connections. But a woman who pauses to take a deep breath while putting up her hair, who organizes her space with care, who savors her food, you bring that same level of presence into your relationships. Presence is the ultimate reward of ritual, and presence is the most precious gift of love. Imagine a partnership with someone who is totally present, who doesn't glance at their phone when you're talking, who recalls what you mentioned yesterday, who senses your mood before you even speak it. That quality of attention is incredibly rare, and it starts with how you treat yourself, because a woman cannot give presence to someone else if she is absent from her own life. So these daily rituals, as small as they seem, are everything. They are the roots that anchor your inner garden. If you let them wither, your energy becomes brittle. But if you water them daily, your energy becomes a wellspring of strength, not just for you, but for everyone lucky enough to be in your orbit. There is no one-size-fits-all ritual. Some women dance in the morning, others sit in complete stillness. Some write unsent letters. Others walk barefoot in nature to feel the ground. Some pray, some stretch, some sing. The what is not the point. The point is that you do it for you, not for an audience, not to look good, but to come home. Home to your center, home to yourself, home to your truth. And when you do that, day after day, your relationships will transform, not because everyone else suddenly gets better, but because you become a woman who knows her own needs. A woman who gives from a full well, not from an empty one. A woman who walks into a room not hoping someone will choose her, but already secure in her own completeness. And this wholeness is impossible to fake. It has to be lived, and it is lived one simple ritual at a time. When a woman starts to live with this level of intention, when your habits are born of self-respect, your quiet is sacred, your emotions are self-disciplined, your mind is watchful, your life is an act of creation, your boundaries are firm, and your rituals are non-negotiable. You stop roaming the world looking for your worth. You radiate it. You no longer need to ask, am I good enough? Because you feel your own sufficiency in the way you greet the day. You no longer obsess, will they leave me? Because you have stopped clinging to anyone who requires convincing. You become a woman whose very presence communicates before your words ever do. Not through volume, but through pure alignment. And within that alignment, your relationships undergo a profound shift. Your standards elevate. Your social circle becomes more refined. You stop fearing solitude because you are never cut off from yourself. You no longer accept scraps because you are busy preparing a feast within your own soul. Your life itself becomes your creed. Your energy becomes your boundary. Your daily practices become your protection. And anyone who wants to walk with you must first learn to approach you with the same deep integrity that you offer to yourself every single day. That is the true sign of a highly intelligent woman.